Shifting functions horizontally. Graph the following equations by typing the equations into Desmos. So pause the video, go to Desmos, type these in. I want you to know how to use Desmos. It's a very important program. Type them in and sketch the equations, then play the video again. So we see that the vertex of y equals x squared is on the origin, and your sketch should look like that. Now, when you type this one into Desmos, we see that it has been shifted 3 units to the right. So when I have a negative number inside the parentheses with the x, the graph gets shifted, and I still go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, and there's my graph. So this is the parent graph. It is the most basic of the parabolas, and this has been shifted horizontally 3 units to the right. Notice, but this was a -3, but it went 3 units in the positive direction. So here's what Desmos looks like. You type it in and you get your parabola. Next, what is the equation of each graph? So I have shifted the graph 2 units horizontally to the left. So since I'm going horizontally, I need to put a number in the parentheses with the x. And if I'm going 2 units in the negative direction, it's going to have the opposite sign. It's going to be x plus 2. Now, what if I want to shift 2 units up? Then I add plus 2 to the end. To shift it up, you add plus 2 to the end. To shift it horizontally, you add the number in the parentheses with the x. Next, we have y equals x cubed. On the right-hand side, it looks similar to a parabola. It just goes up at a steeper rate. But on the left-hand side, it's very different. It looks like we took our parabola and twisted the left-hand side down. So that's what it's going to look like. And now I'm going to do a horizontal shift. So type this into Desmos and see what you get. Pause the video and start the video up again after you've gone to Desmos. Okay, hopefully you have a sketch. I have -3, so I'm going to move it horizontally 3 units to the right. We know that we have the opposite sign. When it's inside the parentheses, if I have a -3, it moves 3 units to the right. And there's my cubic. And that's what it looks like in Desmos. What is the equation of each graph? Well, I know I have a cubic, and I have it shifted up, which means I am adding 2 to the end. Y equals x cubed plus 2. Now I have a parabola or a quadratic. I am shifting it horizontally to the left. So I need to, since this is going in the negative direction, I need to do the opposite. I need to add 2 inside the parentheses with the x. X to the 4th. It sits on the graph and it's very steep. It's actually kind of flat on the bottom. So what does it do to the graph if I have a -3 inside the parentheses? Since it's inside the parentheses, I'm shifting it horizontally, and we do the opposite of -3. So it's going to shift 3 units to the right in the positive direction. Very, very skinny. To shift the graph of an equation some units to the left, you add that number to each x in the equation. To shift the graph of an equation some units to the right, you subtract that number from the x in the equation. Suppose that g of x equals f of x minus 8. Now notice this -8 inside the parentheses with the x. The graph of g of x is the graph of f of x shifted 8 units to the right. When it's in the parentheses like that, it's the opposite sign. So if I have a negative number inside the parentheses, it's shifting in the positive direction. So if I have a positive number in the parentheses, it's going to shift 2 units to the left in the negative direction.